Chapter 10. For the first time, Jess dreaded going to class on Monday. It had been over a week since she had spoken with Chad, and after attending church Sunday, she felt more than a little guilty about jumping into bed with him. How was she going to make it through the rest of this semester in his class? Jess stared at her reflection in the mirror. Though she didn't look that different physically, she felt different. No longer wanting to attract men at every turn, she now opted for longer shirts and shorts that weren't quite as revealing. She wasn't sure if she wanted to keep the shaved part of her hair, but if she parted it down the middle, it was barely noticeable. Though still new to praying, Jess turned her fears over to God. He would know how to soften this situation with Chad. Lord, I'm so new, I'm not sure if you deal with stuff like this, but I think I messed up. I'm not even sure how I feel about Chad now, but I have to see him twice a week, and I'm asking for strength not to fall into temptation again, and for peace. Help me get through this semester. Amen. Jess was glad Emily wasn't in the room, as the prayer felt awkward. Did it get easier with time? She'd never been a big fan of public speaking, and praying aloud seemed similar, but as stilted as her prayer might have been, a measure of peace blanketed her when her eyes opened. Chad wasn't in the lecture hall when Jess arrived, and she sighed a breath of relief as she slid into a chair at the back. It was short-lived, though, as when he walked into the room, her heart thudded in her chest. Why was she still so attracted to him? Was it because they had been intimate, or was there something more? Dropping her gaze to her paper, Jess found she could concentrate on the lecture a little more if she didn't watch him. Still, every once in a while, he would say a word that would trigger a memory in her head and send heat across her cheeks. Would she ever be able to get him out of her head? Hey, I saw you at Indiana Avenue Baptist yesterday, right? The voice startled her, and Jess looked up in surprise at the guy in front of her. With her focus on avoiding Chad's gaze as she gathered her books together, she hadn't noticed this stranger approach as the rest of the students filed out. Yeah, she responded as she stood and slung the backpack over her shoulder. It was my first week. I wondered, he said with a smile. I didn't think I had seen you there before. I'm Randall, by the way. As Jess took his hand, her gaze wandered down front to find Chad staring at them. Their eyes locked for a moment before he shoved the rest of his papers in his satchel and exited the side door. A part of her wanted to run after him, but the more rational part realized it was better this way. Perhaps Randall was her answer to prayer as a way to avoid temptation. Jess, she said, focusing her attention back on the dude in front of her. I'm Jess. So, did you like it? He asked as they walked out of the row towards the door. Yeah, I did, Jess said. I'm new to church, but it was nice there, and my roommate Emily Peters attends there. His eyes lit up. Oh yeah, I know Emily. She played on the church softball team last spring. The church has a softball team? Jess asked as the two stepped into the sunshine. Yep, and a volleyball team during the winter. Can you serve? I don't know, she said with a laugh. The truth was she'd never given sports a chance in high school. She had wanted to avoid the camaraderie that generally went along with team sports, as she had wanted no one finding out about her home life. Plus, she had never known when her mother would be sober and allow her to attend games, or be drunk and forbid it. He raised his eyebrow at the response, and Jess shook her head. It's a long story, she said. Suffice to say, I didn't play any sports in high school, so I have no idea if I'm good at any of them. Well, you should definitely try out this year then, he said. We have a lot of fun. I'll think about it, she agreed. I'm this way. Jess pointed to the right where the math building lay. Disappointment filled his brown eyes. Oh, I'm this way. He pointed to the left. Well, it was nice to see you again, Jess, and I guess I'll see you Wednesday, right? I'll be there, she said, and returned his wave before he walked away. As she continued to the math building, she found herself wondering if Randall's interest had been purely platonic, or if he were interested in her. Having never had a normal relationship, Jess found she had no idea how it was supposed to work. Her history had always been find a man, hook up, repeat. She would have to ask Emily how to navigate these new, unfamiliar waters. A feeling of jealousy welled up in Chad's stomach as he watched the boy interact with Jess. He shouldn't be jealous, as he hadn't called her in a week. Plus, if she were willing to jump into bed with him, She had probably already found someone to take his place. But the feeling remained. Maybe he should have answered her question. What did he care if she knew his favorite food was chicken Alfredo? The truth was, he didn't. He had been scared that she wanted a relationship that he wasn't ready for. Was he? Frustrated, he shoved his papers in the satchel and stormed out the side door. A cigarette, that's what he needed. As the door closed behind him with a soft click, he dropped his satchel and leaned against the brick wall. He snaked a cigarette and his lighter out of his pocket and flicked the flame on. The calming effect was nearly immediate. What was wrong with him? He didn't need to be developing feelings for some girl. But Jess wasn't just some girl. She intrigued him in a way no woman had in years, and he didn't even know why. What he did know was that she occupied his thoughts a lot, more than he wanted. But falling for her meant opening up a side of himself he had closed off with Kyle's death. Ever since Amy's call, Chad's life had been in a tailspin, and going home had only made it worse. The journal from Kyle, seeing his sister, and attending church had all stirred up feelings and emotions he thought he had long ago buried. The cigarette burned to a nub, stinging his fingers. With a curse, he dropped it to the ground and smashed it into the dirt with his toes. He needed answers before he could really process his feelings.